Namaskar everyone. Today is our second video on CSS where we'll be talking about different types of way for applying CSS into our project. So without any delay, let us move towards our today's video. So here we have got a folder open over here where we'll be writing our CSS code. So we will open this folder inside the VS Code. So I will right click on this empty part, then click on open with code. It will take some time for loading and it will be opened in the VS Code. So we will use VS Code as our code editor for writing CSS. So each and every language in, or maybe a programming language, or maybe the styling language, or a scripting language, each and every language needs a code editor. And for web development, VS Code is the most eligible and the most advanced and the easiest, fastest code editor to be used. So we are going to use this one. So here we have got our folders named CSS, and inside this folder we will first create a file called as index.html. So we need a HTML file, and here you can see at the bottom we have got Django template activated over here, but we are not going to use Django template over here. What's the difference between that then? So if you look at this bottom and you are writing HTML code over here, right? But if this language mode is in another language, then just for example it is using Django over here. Now if I try to use any kind of thing over here like exclamatory marks, it won't give me solution because it is not detecting this page as HTML. So that's why we have to change the language mode to be as HTML. So I will write HTML and change it into HTML. Now after changing this language mode into HTML, you could see that, but before that let me increase this size also, increase font size. How would I do? I guess this much font size will be enough for you to see. I hope you are seeing clearly. Let me minimize this file part also. Now after that, you could see that if I write exclamatory over here, it will give me a boilerplate automatically. Means I do not have to write down all this code. It is giving me solution for that one. But for now, as we're writing this code for a beginner level only, we're not going to use all this solution. And if you haven't known, or if you haven't got the knowledge why this meta tag is used, why this doc type is used, then you can look at our previous HTML video, which is found in this playlist. Means we are covering up every topic of web development throughout this playlist. So let me write down this from the first. We are going to write down the basic structure of HTML. Like first we need a HTML tag. Inside HTML tag we need a head, and inside it we need a title, and we are going to write down the methods of applying CSS. That is what we are going to learn today. And body, and inside the body we are going to write a very simple tag over here, that is paragraph tag, and this is a paragraph. That's all. Now before learning the methods of applying CSS, there's a very important thing that has to be known before learning this today's topic. Let us go over here in Excalibur and learn the CSS syntax for today's video. So how we write down CSS in reality then? So while you are writing CSS, then we need a selector at first. The selector are basically the HTML tag as a beginner. But as you go further, you'll have a different kind of things like classes, then ID. But for now, we have got tag as the CSS selector. In next video, we are going to talk about other types of selector also. Now same like that, after writing selector, we have to put the curly bracket. So you can see over here the starting one and the ending one. You can see the curly bracket over here. Now for that one, let me use the pen. Okay, you can see over here. Here we have got the curly bracket. Now after writing that curly bracket, you need to give the CSS property over here. Like this is our property color. And what is the value of the property? Blue. Means we have got one h1 tag inside the HTML, whose property must have to change. Which property? It's the color of the h1 tag. And what must be the color? We determine that thing by the help of value. So that is, we have to change it into blue. Same like that, here we can change another property like font size. Then here we can give the value. How much font size do you need? Like 12 pixel. Then when you are writing those CSS, we have got two different property over here, one, two. Now, while you are writing the CSS property, then you have to put this semicolon at between those two different property. So this is the syntax which you must have to remember. And after you have known this syntax, it won't be very hard to write down the CSS inside our HTML or within our HTML tag. So first, let us learn the first way of writing the CSS then. The first one is called as let me write down the heading. It is called as inline CSS. So as the name suggests, it is written directly inside an HTML tag. Now, if you remember the CSS syntax, which we have discussed just now, you could see there at first there is a tag over there. As I know, there is a tag selector over there. We have to write down the name of that. Now, as we're writing the CSS inside the HTML, means within that same line, that's why we do not need any kind of selector over here. This tag is already a selector. And same like that, we need to write down an attribute over here to keep CSS in that tag. We have got paragraph tag, and if we have to put CSS in that paragraph tag, we have to write an attribute called as style. Now, after writing style, inside that we are going to write down the CSS property and value as you have seen in that syntax. So you have seen that call braces over there. We are not going to write down that thing because that is already being occupied by the style is equal to and this double apostrophe. So here we are going to change this color into red, my favorite color. So color red, and as we can see over here, at last we have got semicolon over here. So color red, and same like that we are going to change the font size also. The font size will be larger. After you have done this thing, let me open this in the browser. So right click on this part and open with live server. You can see over here our paragraph has changed into the red column. So this is how we write down inline CSS. So as you can see over here, inline CSS are directly written inside the HTML tag. So fine, this is the first method of applying CSS. Let us talk about the second method also. And for that one, let us remove this. We'll apply the CSS in the same tag. Now in second one, inside the head, or you can write it anywhere in your program, but usually whenever you are using the second method, you have to use it inside the head tag. So let us use style tag over here. So in the second one, and the second method is called as internal or embedded CSS also. So in internal or embedded CSS, we are going to write down the CSS in the same format how we have seen in that syntax, but that will be directly written inside the HTML file. Listen carefully, we are talking about file over here. In the first method, we had written CSS inside the HTML tag, but in the second method, we are going to write inside the HTML file over here. Now, same thing. We need a selector at first. So which tag should we style over here? It is paragraph tag. Selector, open in the curly bracket. Then inside that curly bracket, we have to put the CSS property over here. So our CSS property is color and our value is red. And the second one, font size, and our value is larger. So this is our two CSS property with their value, and this is how we write down the internal CSS. So now let me see this in the browser once. As you can see over here, it has turned into red. But did it really work? Because we had already made that text as red color before also while we have written the inline CSS. That's why let us change this color then. I will change it into blue. So whether it will change or not, you can see over here, the color has changed into blue. That means our internal CSS is working in this web page. I hope you have understood the internal CSS also. The same like that, we can write down CSS in another way also. The next method for writing CSS is the external CSS, and external CSS are written in a separate CSS file. Means now for the third method, we have to create another file called as style.css, and inside the style.css, we have to write down the same line of code over here, which we have written inside the style tag. Nothing will change over here. Just the difference is that in external CSS, we are creating a new file, and in internal CSS, we are directly writing down the CSS inside that actual or that HTML file. The paragraph tag, Ctrl X, Ctrl V. Let me format this. Right click, format document. Configure prettier code. Did it work? Okay. So the same thing. But as you can see over here, it is not working because we are seeing default styling, that is, we are seeing the default color that is black in our paragraph tag. Why is that then? So that happens because our HTML file doesn't know that there exists a CSS file which is trying to change the color and change the font size of this paragraph tag. Now that's why we have to make our HTML file know that there exists a file called style.css which is trying to change the design of your HTML document. Now, whenever you are writing CSS, you might forget this thing and you will think that why the CSS which I have written is not working in my project then. So that is because you might have missed linking the HTML file with the CSS file over there. So we can link that inside the head tag. Remember that you have to write down a link CSS with HTML inside the head tag, that have to be remembered. So by using link tag over there, and it will have got two attribute, that is rel style sheet, and same like that another one is href, means the reference where where the css file lie. So our css file lie within the same file, and it is named as style.css. Now as soon as I write down style.css, this HTML file knows that there is a style.css file over there, and it will implement the CSS property from those files. So our paragraph has changed into blue color successfully. Now what's the difference between them then? So let us see how actually this works then. Now if we talk about if we talk about inline CSS, you have already seen that we have to write down it inside the HTML tag. But what is the difference between writing the internal and the external CSS then? Means what is the difference between them then? When should we use that thing then? So whenever you are using internal CSS, external CSS, so I will prepare the external CSS mode, because while you're writing a large project, the internal CSS won't work over there. Let us not say won't work, means won't be suitable over there. So let me comment this part and write down here same thing, external CSS with style tag, and I will write down here paragraph. Okay, so this is our internal CSS. Now let us suppose you have got another file called about.html where you write down the same type of code. Okay. Now let us suppose you have got paragraph tag over here, and this is an about paragraph. Now you have what paragraph tag over here in this about.html. Same like that, if you go to instruct.html, you have got paragraph tag over here also. Now you want to apply the same styling, means same color, same font size in this two paragraph tag over here. So what would you have done if you are using the internal CSS? Then you would have written the style tag over here and keep the CSS property over here, write down the values. Same like that, you will implement the same code in this file also. Means you will write down the same set of code again and again in different file. So that will be time consuming for you. So it will take more amount of time. So that's why if you want to write down this code with less amount of time and less amount of code, then I prefer to use the external CSS for that one. Means we can remove this style tag in both the code and link both pages with the, sorry, why is it not happening? Okay, let us convert this into HTML again. I don't know why it has been in, why it has changed the Django template by default. I will correct that in next video. So I will change this comment, uncomment this out, and you can see that our both index.html and about.html is linked with stellar CSS. Means index.html also works by taking code from stellar CSS, and same like that, our about.html also works by linking with stellar CSS. Now, if I will go to index.html, and you can see that the color of paragraph is blue, while if I will go to about.html also, you could see that the color of our paragraph is blue. So both index.html and about.html are using the same style.css file, means they are using the property from the same file. So that is the easiness that we find whenever we are creating a different CSS file to write down the CSS code. And same like that, what could be advantage? So let us compare them a little bit. So first we had got what? We had got inline CSS. Uh, hmm. First we had inline CSS. So inline CSS, it is only good for quick testing only. Means suppose you are writing the code and you want to test how the color looks like inside a HTML tag. Now, for that one, if you are using external CSS, then you have to navigate a different file. If you are using internal CSS, you have to scroll that file. Suppose you are at the bottom of the page or bottom of that file, and you have to write down that CSS by using internal CSS. Then you have to scroll that to the top and write on over there. Then again check that into the web browser. That will be time consuming over there. But simply, if you will use inline CSS, then you can do a quick test over here. You can change the color in that line inside the HTML tag. You can look at the website, and if it is good, then yes, you can go into the top by, if you are using internal CSS, or if you are using external CSS, you can go to another file and apply that CSS property. So it is used for quick testing only. Otherwise, if we talk about maintainability, we cannot maintain those kind of things a lot, because writing CSS inside the HTML tag is a little bit time consuming and it is very hard to understand also. Basically, whenever we are writing CSS, or whenever you are reading CSS, later on you are going to use the same principle. You are going to write down CSS inside the same tag. But if you are using such kind of CSS, just like which we have talked now, which is called vanilla CSS also, then at that case, it's not better to write an inline CSS. Same like that, it is not reusable also. As you can see that whenever we are writing external CSS, then we could write down the CSS in one file and use that throughout our different HTML document. That's the important, it is reusable. But in case of inline, it is not reusable. Well, if you talk about internal CSS, it is useful for single page applications only. Means suppose if you have got a app, or let us not say web page, which is built with only one page, like your portfolio website, where you'll have got a single page only, or a website where you can make a page for the different products. So in that case, then inline, sorry, internal CSS can be a better option. But if you are going for a huge project where there are different kind of pages, and in that case writing internal CSS will suck up, means you will have different kind of problems in that phase, while it is not scalable also. Means you are, if you're writing big projects, then internal CSS will be the worst option in that scenario. But if you talk external CSS, that's how we write down in the industrial part or in the company. So it has got a clean separation. The code looks clean because you have got a separate file for CSS, you have got a separate file for HTML. So the code will be clear, understandable, easy to look, and the code will be reusable, as you could see over there, and it is better for most of the website. Means if somebody is using the vanilla css, then they are probably using external css for writing those css. And same like that, we have got different kind of ways of writing css, but that will be learned after we have gone throughout the node. So this much for today. Thank you for looking till now. Thank you for sticking with us till the end, and hope you're understanding. Don't forget to subscribe also. Don't forget to comment, and thank you.